Hello and welcome to today's Get in Tune. I have got a great show. I'm Michael Gracia, and what I'm really excited about is I get to talk animation today. I don't get to talk animation on the show as much as I'd love to. As you guys know, if it's not comics, it's animation. Those are my two passions in this world. Um, and they're the two things I love to create most in this world. So I'm here with someone's been on the show before. Uh, but I really enjoyed talking to her in the past. She's got a new project coming up. I am super excited to talk about her animation work. Let me bring on, and I hope I don't butcher her name because I've done it many times before, Tina Nawrocki.
Awesome job. Yes, you did very well this time.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so bad with names, and I really try hard to get them right. So, well, first of all, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me
Oh
again.
my
It's good
God.
to be back.
Oh yeah, I'm super excited. I've been looking at the work you sent me for this project that we're going to talk about in a moment. But before we jump into the project, for those who didn't get a chance to watch the last video with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and career?
Of course. My name is Tina Nawrocki, and I am a traditional 2D animator. That means I don't do rigged puppet animation. I animate everything frame by frame. I've been animating for 16 years now, and oddly enough, the largest chunk of my work has been in the video game industry, and I am best known for my work on the video game Cuphead, as well as Cuphead DLC, The Delicious Last Course, which, by the way, won an Annie Award for the animation. Which is super exciting. So this year at the Annie Awards, we got the statuette for the work that we did on Delicious Last Course. But since then, I've been working on two new, sparkling, exciting 2D animated video games, which unfortunately I'm not allowed to share yet. But one day you will have me again so that I could talk to you about those.
Absolutely.
And I also did some TV work. I worked on Green Eggs and Ham, which was a delight, as well as Space Jam: A New Legacy, which was also lots of fun. So, all the 2D animation projects that I could get my hands on.
That's fantastic. It is. It is. I don't like to call it a dying art because so many people love it and do it, but it is kind of like what you see around you. It's almost like it is a dying art. You're always seeing 3D stuff popping up.
Well, I think that was, part of the interesting thing about my career is I was at this really odd turning point where when I went to school, I'm in my late 30s. Every single teacher, mentor, anybody who I talked to was like, 2D is dead. 3D is the way to go. You need to learn 3D software because you're not going to find work. You're not going to put bread on the table. And I was either really stubborn or really stupid or both. But I had logic to my madness. I was like, I tried 3D. I hated it. I don't hate the medium. I just personally hated working in it. And I loved 2D with like a fiery passion. And so in my mind, it's the hardest animation to do because not only do you have to have good acting, good timing, all the things that you do when you do computer animation, but you also have to be an amazing draftsperson. You have to be able to draw well, to keep volumes, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, the worst thing that can happen is I'll be a great animator and then I'll have to find work, in storyboard or some other thing where drawing is a priority.
Yeah.
But I got lucky and I got to work on Cuphead. And since then, I see the tides they are returning, at least in the world of 2D video games. There's more and more independent projects that are excited about 2D animation. And I think I'm trying to be positive that there will be a turning of a tide and there'll be more and more glorious 2D animation projects coming our way, I hope.
Well, I hope so too because I'm a trained 2D character animator. It's what I don't want to say I never did it for like major companies, but I did work on stuff and some of it was video game based back in the 90s when we had CD-ROMs that had the games on there and stuff. So I actually miss 2D like doing 2D animation. And I think there is going to be kind of a turn just from what I see. I've done 3D. I'm just like you in the sense where I tried 3D. I used to work the very first 3D program. I don't know if you've ever heard of it because I'm in my late 40s, so I have a little bit on you. Was a program called Infinity.
No, I learned on 3ds Max.
That was one of my other programs I used.
Yeah.
And no, Infinity was really just putting geometric shapes together.
Yeah.
And just like, and you can modify them a bit, but it was really
Rough.
like. And then there was another one. I can't remember what it was called, but they were trying to make it popular, and it was almost like editing in Illustrator where you were using just vectors to manipulate the shapes.
That's fascinating.
And from
Yeah.
there, I went to 3D Max and then to Maya. And
I don't know. There's something about it. It's just, I know, for example, I have friends who are obsessed with stop motion animation. And even then, like, I find stop motion is closer to 3D when you're like moving a puppet.
yeah,
But they still like the real, like, tactile feel of being there and doing it by hand. And I think part of my obsession with 2D is the kind of the humanity behind it, that you have to draw the thing and nobody's going to help you to do it. You have to do it on your own. And I think that's delightful. Green Eggs and Ham was such a delight because of that. To have a TV show with that quality of animation was everything. It was so cool.
I still have to check out the show. I remember you talking about that the last time you were on, and I think you had some clips, and I remember seeing your clips, and they were all great, everything you showed. But I was like, this is something I need to look at more in depth that I don't think I ever did. I might have checked something out on YouTube a while back, but yeah. So you got a new project coming out, which again, with the pronunciation, I can't say.
I'll save a title for you.
Okay. And all the artwork, and we'll show some artwork on here. We'll show you have an amazing GIF of the character moving. You have a clip of it colored and moving. We'll show all the stuff you sent me. I'm looking forward to looking at it and discussing it. But how do you really say the name?
So again, the reason my last name is hard to pronounce is because I'm Polish. I'm first-generation immigrant. So I was born in Poland. I was born in Radom, and then I immigrated to Canada. I grew up in Quebec, which is a French-speaking province, and then I lived in Toronto, which is in Ontario, for 10 years, and now I am in Ottawa, Canada. And so I am embarking on something that I've been thinking about for 10 years, which is making an own personal project. Traditionally animated, 2D animated short. It's going to be 7 minutes long, which for anybody who does animation, that's pretty ambitious. We were talking a little bit about how we don't, how you're trying to keep it as short as possible.
Yeah.
So it's based on a Polish legend. The capital of Poland is Warsaw, and they have an emblem that represents the city, and it is a warrior mermaid. So it's a mermaid that is holding a sword and a shield. And of course, there's a folktale, a legend that surrounds that mermaid. But I am retelling that same legend with my own spin on it. I'm changing it up a little bit to tell the story my way. And so the title is Syrenka, Legend of the Warsaw Mermaid. Syrenka basically just means mermaid in Polish.
Okay. So Syrenka.
Syrenka, yes.
Okay, good. I'll forget that later, but I'll do my best. Like I said, I'm just bad with this, but man, the work is awesome. I just want to show something real. We're going to just start off with showing something because
so the caveat is that I love paper animation. So traditional frame by frame flipping paper. Cuphead was all, as we know, traditionally animated, but the newer projects that I've been on, it's still frame by frame animation, but it's on the computer. So one of the reasons that I'm making this film is to go back to paper, my favorite medium. So if you show that, GIF, it is.
I will show that. I'm sorry.
So this is my little kind of, when we reach out for funding or we reach out to people, it's a little synopsis, and there's the beautiful logo. So Syrenka is all hand painted by a calligraphy artist called Sue Greensiff. And so I reached out to her. She's in the States, and she's been doing calligraphy for 30 years.
Wow.
And she designed that beautiful logo for me. So this is kind of a little, taster of what the short is going to be like. I'm working with an amazing character designer called Yasmin Ferush, who did the beautiful concept of a mermaid that you see here. And she's going to be doing concept art for all the characters of the film. So I'm really—
That's fantastic.
Really
so
excited.
you're definitely not doing this alone then.
No. I think this is one of the things which is fascinating, because whenever we do personal projects as artists, we usually try and pile all the work on ourselves. This happens a lot. And I think when I thought of the short, I was 27 and now I'm 37. So I think it would have been a very different short if I did it in my 20s, because I feel I would have wanted to do everything myself. and burnt out in the process. And also it would have been, yes, it would have been my voice, but what's wonderful about working with a team is that, there's so many different perspectives and different experiences that come into the project that I think enrich it. And so in my 30s, I decided, no, I'm not doing this alone. I know what my strengths are. I know what I love to do, and that's animate. I am not the best person at layout. I am not the best person, at background art. I'm not even the best person at storyboard. So I'm reaching out to amazing artists to collaborate with me. I'm also not the best writer, which is hilarious. So I wrote like an outline of what I wanted the short to be, but then I hired a dear friend of mine who is both an actress as well as a scriptwriter. And she wrote the script to Syrenka for me, which is absolutely exciting. And what's really lovely is, so there's a few reasons why I'm doing this short is for the love of 2D animation, obviously. That's number one. Number two, it's part of my heritage. I want to speak to my Polish heritage in doing a Polish legend. But number three, I'm retelling the story in a feminist way. Okay. A lot of old legends, and there are some, notable exceptions. There's a lot of that damsel in distress kind of narrative where there's the male hero. If there's a female character, she needs to be saved, and he saves her, and that's kind of the end. And the original legend of the Warsaw Mermaid is very similar. She gets captured, and she gets saved by a man. That's not my story. So I wanted a story where, the symbol of a mermaid who is holding a sword and a shield, she's a warrior. To me, this is a character that should have agency, that should have power. Yeah. And so I wanted to tell the story my way, in a way that celebrates the power of women and people who, identify as women X or are gender fluid, I wanted to retell it and make that symbol into something different and something exciting. And this is why I also hired 2 consultants, which was really exciting to work with. Okay. So I have 2 friends who are both professors. One of them, luckily, is my sister. She's super smart and super amazing. She studied history, notably Latin American history, but also human rights. Okay. So feminism and things like this is very, very well known to her. And then my other childhood friend, Dr. Bianca Buschamin, is a professor in Black women's studies as well as feminism. And so she's written a lot of works actually surrounding art as activism. So that was very, very important to me to have their opinion. So we had all these meetings where I had my scriptwriters, Aaron Darnell Martin, as well as Bianca and Eva, and we would talk about the story, what I wanted to say, and they would, give suggestions how to, in such a short space of time, how to convey a message. And so this is my first time doing something which I think is serious, and it's an important message. It's mostly important to do it now because of the, historic overturning of Roe versus Wade. And to me, personally, not only is that affecting me because I live in North America, but in Poland as well, there's an extremely conservative government that has been trying to rip away the very, very already stringent laws when it comes to abortion rights. So, the right to bodily autonomy, the women in Poland have been marching and trying to protest. There's, protests worldwide. There's Iran. The women of Iran are also protesting. And so in the world that we live today, I feel in some places we're taking a step backwards when it comes to equality and women's rights. And so I feel my film needs to be made now because I think it has a strong message about that, about supporting the fight and how we need to fight. And hopefully we will make the world a slightly better place one day,
Well, listen, it's a great message, and I like that you're retelling it in a way that means something to you.
Precisely, it's personal.
Yeah, and that's the type of stories, first of all, that I love to look at. Don't get me wrong, as a comic guy, I'll look at anything animated, I don't mind. But when you tell a story that's personal, you really could you see the difference, I think, in the storytelling than and the animation and the love that goes into it than you do
And
sometimes
I
in
think this
something
is
else.
why personal projects are so
Mhm.
important, and independent projects. So independent
Yeah.
studios, independent artists making things, because any big studio production, even if, for example, from the ground up, there's an awesome story and an awesome story team, and the artists are putting a lot of their own emotion into the characters, it is still something made for profit. It's for entertainment, usually.
Yeah.
It's made for profit. So I think it's really important to sometimes do things that are just for art's sake, just to talk about something that you're passionate about, something that
Yeah.
you love, and make that without the idea, like, this will make no money. Like, this will
Well,
flat
well,
out make no money. It's gonna live, on festivals, and then it's gonna live nicely on the internet. And if I manage to break even, I'll be super thrilled.
well, listen, you're realistic, but I mean, hopefully it does do something for you, whether at least open doors for something else so you
I
can
think so.
continue personal projects.
I think so. I think that's the goal, is basically, to become a better storyteller, to become a better animator. I'm already so thrilled that I'm collaborating with so many amazing artists. Before we were
Yeah.
live, I was chatting a little bit how the VFX, so the visual effects,
Mhm.
I got somebody who specializes in that, because yes, I could do it myself. I know how to animate water and fire, but it's not, I don't live and breathe that. And there are
Yeah.
people out there who do, and who are so passionate and amazing with visual effects. So I have Sonia Firsova, who's in Ukraine currently, and she's going to be animating all my visual effects. Another kind of interesting thing about this project is that, having worked in video games most of my life,
Mhm.
I'm generally surrounded by very masculine energy. Like, most studios have predominantly male employees. And though this is changing, which is really exciting,
Mhm.
I can see video games are being more open and more diverse, but very slowly. So most of my career, I have been surrounded by men, and the stories that were being told were, predominantly their voices and their points of view. So because this is a feminist story about a warrior mermaid, I am hiring predominantly women or people who identify as female or gender fluid,
Mhm.
so that the voice and the stories that are being told is something that doesn't get told as often, right? Like,
Yeah.
very rarely do you have teams that are predominantly female. So
Yeah.
there you
You know, it's funny you said, because being a creator myself, I don't normally think in those ways. Like, am I telling a male story? I just tend to draw, or tell male stories because I'm a guy and that's what I
and that's
know.
your experience.
And I had an intern. God, I don't know. We're going back maybe 2014, maybe a little earlier, and she was a fantastic artist and she helped me greatly there. But I remember during a meeting one day, she asked me, she goes, "How come you don't have like any like female lead characters? They're always, even if they're not like the damsel in distress, they're always just a secondary character."
Yeah.
And it just never occurred to me.
Until
So
somebody points it out. And this is why I think it's important to have
yeah,
diverse teams, because
yeah,
I, for example, have a different experience because I'm a woman, but I'm also a white woman.
mhm,
So my experience comes from already, like, a kind of a vantage point of privilege because of my skin color.
mhm,
Whereas, for example, my scriptwriter is a woman of color, and so is Bianca Bouchame, who is, a professor, and she's a woman of color. So they already have a different perspective, and their comments and their views on things were something that I probably wouldn't have come up with myself. And that's why it's important to talk to these people and to get a variety of voices involved. And I'm super thrilled that the team that I managed to put together is not only exactly portraying a female voice, because we're predominantly women, but also we're extremely diverse culturally. They come from very diverse cultural backgrounds. They have very different experiences. I have quite a few Canadians, but, Vietnamese Canadian, Chinese Canadian, African American Canadian, it just, like, there's so much culture and so much different perspectives coming from
mhm.
these voices that I couldn't come up with myself. And even though it's a Polish legend, I do want women from very different backgrounds to take part and to have a voice and have a say in what happens, because then the story will be richer and will be, and this is what I want. I want Syrenka to be an international symbol,
Okay.
for the fight for women's rights, not only for Polish women, but to kind of join all those other symbols that are out there that are, representing the fight for equality, which I
Yeah.
think is very important.
No, that's fantastic. Because you actually just answered a question I was about to ask. As I'm listening to you talk, I was like, yeah, no, it's great that you have all these diverse cultures input. But I was going to say, this is a Polish
Legend, yes.
yeah, legend. Is it changing? Is it not like keeping to what you want because you have all this cultural diverse
No,
input?
I don't think so. I think it helps it out because part of what I think is really important in art and in any type of fight for equality, whether it be women's equality, women's rights, fighting against racism, against even poverty, right? Like
Yeah.
socioeconomic equality. I think that the key message for me is that we're all human,
Yeah.
and we need to respect and love each other as humans. And so all those like cultural and and all these types of divides are just very kind of skin deep, and deep down we all have emotions, we all have the capacity to love, to respect, we all have intellects, and we all come from the human race. And I think especially with, I'm not going to get into the rant about AI and how like computers are taking over our jobs, but this is what makes us human. All these
Yeah.
things bring us together as one. And so I feel even if it's a legend based on my experience as a Polish woman, the fact that I have input from women from very diverse backgrounds, it makes them more human. It makes them more, international in a way for everybody to appreciate. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy to hear that. Because honestly, like when I work, it's really me. I occasionally show it to friends, but for the most part, it's just me. So I don't, those things don't cross my mind that often, and it's not like on purpose or anything. It's just
Oh no,
I'm creating the stories that I'm creating.
yeah, it's something that you learn as you go on. And I think
Yeah.
that's what's fascinating to me about also having been the same, just creating stories all on my own.
Yeah.
This project, I want it to be a lot of voices that bring it to fruition. And I'm super excited to experience that and to see how that changes the way I make art. I am the director, it is my vision, but I want all these voices to influence me and to influence the end product, and to have their experiences be part of it, which I think is really cool.
And speaking of, your work here, let's take a look at this GIF you sent me
Woohoo!
because it's beautiful. I've been watching it on my other screen, and just this is, this is where she comes in, and I love the movie. One of the things I looked at first when I saw this, and I think this is because of the Little Mermaid and all the behind the scenes I've ever seen of the Little Mermaid. They talk about the movement of the hair underwater,
Yeah.
and the first thing I looked at is how is her hair moving?
It's true. It has like its own kind of yeah, how the hair settles. It's not like
Yeah.
it does in the air, which is something really fun. And if you notice, this is something that is very interesting about the Warsaw Mermaid and European mermaids in general, because we all know the Little Mermaid, and it's
Yeah.
become such a part of our consciousness. We think of mermaids as having one tail, whereas for a lot of European legends and a lot of European art, mermaids had two tails, had the separate legs, with the two fins. There is a very iconic statue in the middle of the historic square in Warsaw with the mermaid, and she has two legs. And so I wanted to bring a little bit of a different, I guess, design of mermaid to the public, to the general consciousness, which is the one that has the two tails, which is a very kind of old European way of
Yeah.
drawing mermaids.
No, that's nice. I'm gonna show the what do they call it, the video clip you sent me, which is the
Sure.
colored version of
Yes.
this with the visual effects that you were talking about that we discussed, quickly before.
Yeah, so I'm working with an amazing compositor called Sarah Fisher, and she is so, because again, I don't know how to do this. I don't know After Effects very well. So
Mhm.
she basically added so much magic. The background is done by a Hazel Dang, who is Vietnamese Canadian from Vancouver. And the bubbles are done by Sonia Firsova from Ukraine for VFX. And of course, I did the coloring, but there's also something really fun that I wanted to do in this film. If you notice, there's a texture over the tail of the mermaid.
Mhm.
The texture is in the background and is being held still, and she just kind of masks over it, so to speak.
That's what
There's
I was gonna ask. Yeah.
yeah, there's one Japanese film that does this. I forget the title. I need to get better at remembering the title of this film. But so the watercolor, the kind of a pattern on her tail is hand painted in watercolor
Wow.
by a friend of mine, Susanna Komza, who is a traditional watercolor artist. So all the characters in the film will have this patterned overlay over their clothing, or for the mermaid over her tail. And so it'll kind of add a very specific look to the look of the film.
No, so the background is also After Effects, or is that?
So no, that's done. Hazel is she loves working traditionally as well, but I thought I would completely lose my budget if I had all the backgrounds painted traditionally. So she does digital art as well. So she painted the background in Photoshop or whatever have you. The kind of watery effect over top of it, though, that's After Effects.
Okay.
Make it kind of move like it's underwater.
Yeah.
And so the lighting, the kind of arrays of light, that was After Effects. But I animated the shadows and the highlights, like that's animated by hand with an overlay. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And another thing about the kind of a look and feel of it is there's an art movement that I encourage everybody to Google. I'm sure everybody knows Art Nouveau. Like, people know that movement, especially from Gustav Klimt, the Kiss, as well as the Czech Art Nouveau, which is Alfons Mucha. With the beautiful posters, with the women with the very graphic hair. But there was an Art Nouveau movement in Poland, which nobody knows about because it's like everybody in Poland knows it, but internationally it's not well known. It's called Młoda Polska, or Young Poland. And they had some incredible artists, including Wyspiański, who designed a lot of stained glass for churches at that time, but he also did these amazing pastel drawings. And so the design of the colors and the characters and how they're drawn is really inspired by his work, which I think is really, really exciting. So I hope that my little short will also kind of portray that art style and get people interested in that art style as inspiration. So yeah, that's also a little fun little cultural detail there.
No, that's fantastic. You're right. I never heard of it, so it's good to know. I'll have to check it out.
I'll send you like a Google search so you can post it in the links below so that people can check it out as well.
Absolutely. Hold on, I'm gonna just end it here and stop the share. This it is gorgeous, that animation there, and I love how the compositing is done. Let me just stop share here. What is going on? Click that. There we go. No, it's interesting because I've used After Effects for God knows how many years, but sometimes the compositing is for me the most time consuming part. Even though animation takes time, the compositing is what does it, because I want that to look right. And
it really changes the look and feel, doesn't it? It's crazy to see. I didn't send you the kind of a flat color, flat background animation before, but oh my goodness, like I get chills when I see what Sarah does, like all those little, like the fact that she also comes out of shadow and then goes into shadow, like that's all Sarah. Like I didn't even think of that. And she managed to add those little details in, which I think is absolutely amazing. And this is the thing is, like, yes, I could go and sit down and learn After Effects. And yes, I would butcher my way through it and would like somehow get to an end result. But then you have people who live and breathe this stuff and who could give you like, oh, what if we do this? And I have this idea, like maybe that would make the shot better. So I think that's another reason why I'm collaborating with people to have that expertise and to have those people, on board with me to make the film.
Yeah. No, but that's great, because I can only use myself as reference for stuff, but I spent years teaching the Adobe Suite back when, before like Character Animator or whatever that program is, character animation came in, and then the stuff that came in after, basically, Photoshop, Illustrator, After Effects, Premiere, what else did they have? InDesign. I like taught all that and used them professionally. So for years, I wasn't, after I did the stuff in the 90s and early 2000s with the animation, my career changed for reasons I won't go into right now. But then it became educational, so my only animation time was doing that stuff. Was teaching, and man, I loved what After Effects could do. I really did. But when I would start combining it with, say, a Flash at the time, and I'm going through it, and even in class I would sit there getting angry because it's not doing. I'm trying to explain stuff to students, and I'm explaining properly, but I'm sorry, this is the most time consuming part. Like, it's just, I want it perfect, and I got to be like, I got to stop just for class. So compositing pieces together were never my strong suit. But if you're like, hey, can you make me an explainer video where a box opens up or something, I was fine with that.
Oh, good times.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
But yeah, let's show some more of the artwork and talk about it, because man, you got some really, really good stuff. Now the piece that I first showed, let me open that up again here. You were mentioning this is what you send out when you're trying to get funding and stuff. Can you talk about how are you
funding?
Let's talk funding, because I do have a lot of people who are actually, my show, as you know, is devoted to independent creators, whether it's animation, comics, whatever. People are always interested on how do we get money to create what we're trying to create, because everybody,
absolutely,
they're on Kickstarter or whatever. I'm sorry.
This is
go ahead.
very important for people who are out there trying to make their own independent projects, and I think we live in a time where it's really exciting because there are more avenues to get independent projects funded. So part of it is savings. So for example, for pre-production, obviously, I'm working for free doing pre-production, but I also have a tiny budget to pay some of the, key collaborators, script writing, storyboard, all the beginning stuff that I need, character design. So I have a budget set aside from that, just from working hard, putting money aside, and then, paying these artists what they're worth. But then I have the delightful honor of working with Felicity Moreland, who's my producer. And she's absolutely amazing. She's currently finishing a documentary film called Hand Drawn Film. You should check it out. It's a film exploring the state of 2D animation today. And I think that's a very fascinating subject, especially, with the rise of 3D. We were all kind of lamenting, you and I offline, how, 2D versus less opportunities. And I think that's changing. And I think the film kind of explores what's going on globally with 2D animation. So Felicity Moreland is currently finishing that film. It's going to be, on festival run, and then it's going to be distributed as well. And I kept telling her, like, this is the year, I'm making Syrenka, this is happening. And she was like, do you have a producer? And I said, no, I don't. And she's like, would you like me to be your producer? I'm like, oh my God, yes, please. And so all that knowledge that I don't have, she has. So she's like, we're going to apply for grants. So Canada, which is wonderful, and hopefully your country also supports the arts. And there are provincial grants for, different art projects, but also federal grants. Mm-hmm. And so currently we've applied to 3 Ontario grants, which is the province where I live, is Ontario. So we've applied to 3 of them. One of them, is funny, is only going to give us like physical materials we need to make it. So we'll pay for the paper, for the paper that I need. But still, I won't have to buy the paper if we get that grant, which would be amazing, because animation paper is not cheap. So there you go. But 2 other grants are thankfully more, about the production budget. And I think we have one that is 40,000 Canadian, hopefully, that we could get. And another one is between 50 and 100,000 Canadian. And just so you know, a 7-minute short like this, if I paid myself what I'm worth, it would be around, with like the music, the compositing, the final sound. I'm hiring a composer to do the score. I'm also hiring a singer because the mermaid sings. So I need to hire a singer to sing the song. It would all cost around 200,000 Canadian. If I don't pay myself for the animation, then I would need around 100,000 Canadian. So that is probably worst case scenario, that I just do everything for free and I don't pay myself, but everybody else has to get paid.
No,
so
exactly.
I need
Exactly.
to get the rest of the money to be able to pay all these amazing, talented individuals who are working on the film.
Mm.
So the plan is, start pre-production with my own savings. We've applied to these grants. We're only going to know end of summer if we got them or not. And then the other thing that's happening right now for Mermaid, because it is a story about a mermaid, and we
Yeah.
are in the month of May, is I am launching a Kickstarter campaign to get that little bit of chunk of money to get production going, and get all the I want to hire some reference actors, which would be so delightful. This is something that I've never experienced. As we said, like we always animate with ourselves as reference.
Yeah.
We videotape ourselves doing funny stuff,
Yeah.
but because this film has a more of a serious tone, and it does have male characters in it. For example, I have a character who's an old man in the film. An old man I am not. And even though I could try and move like an old man and try and act like he would, obviously there are some things that I just don't feel in my body that I can't do the same. And so
You can just record me. I feel like an old man all the time.
thank you. That's really sweet. I might take you up on it. But I'm trying to get some great reference footage. I will have one other animator working alongside me. Her name is Yana. And so I want us to like the old Disney films actually have like real actors giving us a performance that we could then interpret and create amazing animation. So for all that, I need money. And so please do check out the Kickstarter. And even if you could just donate $5, even if you could just share the Kickstarter after watching this episode, that would mean the world to me and my team to make this film happen. And one of the other reasons, although the main reason is I just love paper animation to death, but I am actually going to sell the drawings. So if you want to have a little bit of, of animation art on your wall, you can buy one of the beautiful drawings from that swimming sequence. So they are on sale. You can buy one and hang it on your wall and support the film that way. So that's also an option.
Well, I will say, once the Kickstarter link is ready, send it to me.
Yes.
I will not only drop it in the description of this video, but I will share it on my social media because I do want to see this.
I hope so. I hope people get excited about it and want to see it finished. I think no matter what, though, I am so passionate and married to this project that I will make it happen. Yeah. I don't know how, but I will make it happen. I will keep applying to grants. I will keep, doing everything I can to make this become a reality, because I am so far in that there is no turning back. This is going to be a film whether it likes it or not. It's going to happen.
I completely understand that. And it's funny, earlier we were talking about the I guess the shape of 2D animation, where it is going on. You mentioned when you were talking about making this film and having all the diverse input, just basically about being human. And it got me thinking. And I think that's why 2D animation is going to stay around, because it is done by the human hand. Whether you're drawing it by hand on paper like you or digitally on the computer, it's done by hand. There's going to be things that we relate to, whether it's a little mistake or just something.
It's the imperfections.
Exactly. That's and no one is perfect. So having perfect 3D, I think,
it's harder to relate. I think obviously the incredible work that the animators put in 3D to make the acting talk to us. However, I don't know, there was so many animators who got famous by drawing stickmen or squiggles and having that tell a story, and people relate to that automatically. Why? Yeah. Because they can see the humanity. They can see that it was drawn by hand. It is imperfect. And we actually, because we see other humans and we're all imperfect, we're not symmetrical, we have our imperfections. It's so much easier to relate to that. And, when 3D was trying to make super hyper realistic human characters, there's still uncanny valley, which we call, which humans can right away see that this is not human. Yeah. We're so well trained. What is a human face? And I think the problem is the imperfections. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of, talks at festivals of 3D artists who are making very human-like characters, speaking about how to make them asymmetrical and make them imperfect so that they actually look better, which is hilarious. But 2D has that off the bat, you know, because it's drawn by the imperfect human hand.
Yeah, I'm gonna move on to some stuff. So this is the texture we're talking about.
Oh yeah, so this is a texture painted by Susanna Komza, who is my friend. She's Polish as well, which is lovely. So I do have a few people in the film production who are Polish. And I wanted some things, aside from, you know, the paper animation, also to be hand drawn and hand painted. And I think the textures is really that kind of moment for that, where each character will have this hand painted overlay over their clothing. And this is the first one that she's done for me. I'm super thrilled by it. It's the mermaid texture, but there will be one for all the human characters, which will give them kind of a distinct quality and feel, hopefully.
So, and you said she masked this in After Effects over.
Yeah, so I was the one who repeats the pattern. So I kind of make a giant, you know, repetition of the pattern, and then that is just kind of stable in the background. And the After Effects, my compositor creates a mask, so that so that you can kind of see it come through, which is awesome.
Oh, that's nice. And this right here is obviously, you know, a bit of a character sheet, like, or
yes. So
design.
This is character exploration.
Yeah. Let me ask you though. So while we're talking about the character, you know, you obviously are an animator. You draw in, you know, whatever style you're told to draw in. Tell me about how the style came up for this specific, you know, story.
That's a good question, because I've generally been known for a very cartoony style. So I get a lot of requests to draw in the 1930s style, which is what Cuphead is, that rubber hose style, which is very cartoony, very caricatured. Recently, I did an intro for a rapper, for Lil Yachty, for his concert. We animated, me and Joseph Coleman, who is another amazing Cuphead animator. We animated a 1930s owl for the intro of his concert. So I get, you know, asked to do that a lot. And one thing I am not known for, but I love to do, is like I started with realism. I started drawing portraiture and painting realistic war scenes when I was a kid, and I love that. And I love human characters and human emotions. And just because the way my, I guess, career path, you know, twisted and turned, I got the chance to do more cartoony characters most of the time. So one of the reasons I wanted Syrenka to be human characters and to be slightly more serious in look, like obviously it's still caricature, but it has more of that human proportion. It has the human emotions to it. But I am not a character designer. And so this is actually the work of Yasmin Firouche, who is a Moroccan, a very awesome young Moroccan artist, character designer. She's currently working in character design, which is amazing. So I asked her to do some development work for me. I explained what I want, you know, my mermaid to look like, what her key characteristics are, like the two fins. And she did this beautiful set of exploration work. And obviously when I draw the mermaid, I change her a little bit because I draw slightly differently. But it was like such a joy to have her creative vision kind of kickstart all of my cogs turning, and how I draw her in the end is obviously not exactly how she did, but this was a wonderful tool for me to get inspired. And I loved some of the elements that came from her vision, which I incorporated into the final design, which is great.
I gotta say, I like the idea of the sword tattoo.
Yes, the sword tattoo. I thought that was really great.
I like that a lot. Wow. And then
another detail, which is funny, and because it is a feminist story, is she doesn't have any clamshells or bullshit on her boobs. They are free the nipple, damn it. There is nothing wrong with nipples. She's going to be bare-chested. And obviously that is going to be a problem with some, you know, showing the film in some places where there's huge censorship. But it was important for me too, to make a stand on that, you know, there's nothing wrong with breasts. And they should not always be damn covered. And she's a mermaid; she doesn't wear clothing, you know. Like,
yeah, exactly. I mean, I've always been a little confused on that watching stories, but I get it as you know, someone who's going to watch something like with kids, or you know, you're not going to show that. I get the idea, but it never, you know, made sense to me.
No, me neither.
100%.
And
So
even the whole thing that like, kids shouldn't see breasts. Why not? Damn it. Like they saw breasts plenty of time when they were fed by their mothers. So, like
you
let's
know,
let's not I think it's crazy. It's very also like different cultures have a very different approach
yeah.
to nudity and like, the naked body. And I find it just like really odd in Western culture where like, the male torso is totally fine to be nude, but the female torso needs to be covered all the time.
I get that, but also, I'm not to go into it, but we don't look people when they see breasts, they sexualize them. But also as people like you and me, artists, we've sat in life drawing classes.
Oh,
It looking at the naked form is nothing to me.
no, and I
doesn't
started
matter.
really early too. Like I was really serious about my art career from a very young
Mhm.
age. And at 12, I asked my mom, I want to go to life model drawing
Yeah.
because I want to get better as an artist. And my mom wanted to sign me up, but they wouldn't let me without her being in the room with me. So she would have to be there in the back reading a book while I was drawing the model, which was hilarious. But there you have it. So at least my mom was very supportive, and I got the chance to draw the model from a young age.
Yeah, no, that's great. I didn't get to do that till college at 18. So, but it helps. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's
absolutely.
having reference right in front of you like that. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But
So those are the beautiful character designs from
yeah,
Yasmin, and then I think there's a final kind of character sheet.
yes,
Yes. So
right
this is
here.
again Yasmin's drawing. We kind of like refine her and what I wanted her to portray, and so this is the character design that I jumped off to do my first pencil tests, the exploratory kind of animation of the mermaid swimming. So we have one, two, three, four more main characters that are in the process of being designed, which is really exciting. There are two lead female characters versus the mermaid, and then there is a bar owner called Kinga, who is the other main character, and they kind of mirror each other when it comes to the story and what happens throughout the story. So that character is extremely important and is going to be designed shortly. And then there is, as I mentioned, an old man character, and then a young fisherman who is like, I guess, antagonist of the whole thing. But it's going to be fascinating to see those personalities come across in the development process. And of course, I'm super excited to record reference footage once I find the actors. And this is going to be my first time hiring and working with voice actors. We had a little bit of a talk about how important voice actors are. So there is dialogue in the film. There is the mermaid sings, and this is another interesting cultural thing. She will sing in Polish.
Interesting. Okay.
But the film will be in English. Like all the dialogue will be in English because I want it to be fairly easy, to grasp internationally. So English is the go-to language. I will of course have subtitles for like a myriad of different languages once the film launches. But the singing will be in Polish, and the song. This is where I love how supportive my family is. I asked my mother to find me an old folk song, which is copyright free, because I didn't want to have to pay for the copyright of the words and the melody.
Yes. Yeah.
This is another budget thing. Try and find stuff that's copyright free so that you only have to pay for the rendition that the singer gives you, So she found an ancient Polish ballad called Oj ty rzeko, which is O Ye River. And what's fascinating about, the Warsaw Mermaid, for those of you who don't know the geography of Poland, is that the Vistula River runs along Warsaw. So this mermaid is not an ocean mermaid; she's a river mermaid.
Okay.
And so the fact that she found the song "O Ye River," which is about a river, it's a very appropriate song for my mermaid to sing. And then there's this beautiful rendition, which I'll send you a link to, and I hope you will post it along so that everybody gets to listen.
Whatever links you send me, I'll be happy to post for you.
So there's a choir in Poland called Laboratorium Pieśni, or the Laboratory of Song. That's what it translates to, their band name. And they sing a cappella as a choir this beautiful song, O Ye River. And I've actually reached out to them. And it's not yet signed, but I'm really hoping I will get that version of the song for the credits. So, the mermaids sing solo throughout the film, but it is all these women's voices that come together in the credits singing the same song, which kind of goes back to the message that, we all have to stand up and fight together for equal rights and for human rights in general globally. And so it's symbolic that there's a lot of voices that sing the same song that the mermaid was singing.
Yeah. No, that's nice. I look forward to hearing it myself. I just want to show the last 3 pieces of art you shared with me.
Sure. So
These are prints.
Yeah, so these are just exploratory sketches that I drew in a sketchbook while
Mhm.
thinking of a mermaid. So this was while Yasmin was drawing different concepts. So obviously the design is evolving through these kind of sketches, and I'm changing it up. But it was about thinking about her and about just like getting to know her, I guess I would call these.
Yeah.
So this is very much pencil on paper sketchbook stuff that I'm also sharing with everybody to show that yes. There is a lot of kind of background work that goes to even just like figuring out who this character is and what she looks like and what could she be doing in her free time, and so on. So developing a personality.
Yeah, no, I like them a lot.
And I don't know if anybody will catch on to this, but this is a slight nod to the Czech Art Nouveau movement. So a lot of these exploratory sketches, I would actually look at a lot of poster art from Alphonse Lupa for some of the posing and stuff to be like, ooh, if she was in this poster, what would she look like? So so you could go out and try and find the exact posters for each of these poses that I found.
Yeah, no, these are gorgeous pieces here. I love them.
Thank you. I'm also so another way that I am getting funding. Let's go back to money. Not only the Kickstarter, but I'm invited to several festivals. This is something that's really exciting because COVID has let up a little bit. Festivals are happening again live, and so I am going in April to the Netherlands for Playgrounds Festival, and I'm bringing a lot of these art pieces as prints to sell to people. And any money I make from selling prints is going to go straight into the film. But also I am going to teach some workshops, and you are a teacher, what that is like. I've done it in the past where I would do several weekends in a row where I would do a Zoom workshop, and I've had a lot of amazing interest in that, and people have been delightful. So that's another way I'm going to be doing funding is every now and so often, like maybe once a month or once every second month, I will run some workshops, and that money will also go straight into the film. And there you have it. So so these lovely sketches are going to be available at the festivals, but also on my Etsy shop, which we will post a link below as well.
Absolutely.
So if you want to, support the Kickstarter, but also you can support the film through a different means by just purchasing some art, and that way I get some money to make the film happen.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, first of all, I hope you get funded. Number one, because this just sounds like a great piece to do. You do have, I believe you said, I don't know if you said it online on the air or just when we were talking before, but it's kind of a 2-year kind of goal project.
Yes, I think we didn't mention it live, but yes. So because I feel that the last person to get paid will be me on this project, even if I get the funding. So obviously the logical thing to do is to keep working. So I'll keep working my regular day jobs and then make Syrenka, evenings and weekends. Thankfully, I have a very flexible schedule as a freelancer. I don't work for one studio. I work for several studios and make my own hours. So when the production picks up, I can, for example, like take 1 day a week and just work on Syrenka, and then 4 days a week I work my regular job, something like that. So my hope is that 2 years and the movie will be out. So 2025 is the goal to launch it, and of course have it at festivals. I have some like lovely support from various Canadian organizations. The Polish Film Festival promised that they would screen it. I have, some other lovely support from different organizations that they will screen it locally. And then, of course, once the festival circuit is over, then it will live online. All my backers obviously will get, the film as a download before that even happens. But it will live online after the festival circuit, so everybody can enjoy it. There's a beautiful poster that is in the works, which I will also have for sale for the Kickstarter. So there's going to be all the things, and it's going to be great. 2 years, guys, and I'm going to do it.
I have every faith you will. I just know it sounds like a great project. It sounds like a great story. I mean, listen, all you had to tell me it was an old Polish legend, and you had me hooked already. And I'll tell you why. I'm a fan of old legends, folklore, mythology. Like that's where I go to pull my stories from.
Yeah, best place.
And I just love them all. It doesn't matter. You tell me a culture, I will look at it. My very first children's book I ever wrote for a class was based on a South American folklore. I forget where it came from, but it was called The Monkey and the Crocodile. And I remember reading, studying folklore, different legends and stuff, and I found that one, and I was like, oh my god, this is great. And this was I think I was in my bachelor's when I did this, but I always liked it. But like that opened my eyes to like, let's explore more and more, to the point where, yeah, I'm the type of guy, I have my own characters for my comics and stuff, but I'd rather go and explore, legends and fables and whatever, because there's just,
I love that because again, there's some ancient wisdom in a lot of
Mhm.
these folk tales, which
Yeah,
is very kind of still relevant today. But what I love about them is just the structure of a legend or a fable can then be retold. Like Disney
yeah,
did that over and over again and created its own version of all these well-loved, stories. And what's interesting to me, and this is something that I was talking with my friend Terry, who runs a podcast as well. And he was like, I Googled, the legend of the Warsaw Mermaid and the Warsaw Mermaid, and there is no animated version. There doesn't seem to be a children's book. There doesn't seem like it has very blank canvas when it comes to depictions of
yeah.
her. There's statues, and symbols and coats of arms, but there is no media that represents her. There's no live action film. There is no, animation. So I'm the first, and that makes me
Yes.
so excited that I get to not be influenced by what came before, and this is my vision, and hopefully I will trigger more interest to maybe
Yeah.
portray her over and over again in different ways, which is really exciting.
No, it really does sound like a great project. Just talking to you, I hear like the passion in your voice. This is definitely something you
Oh,
love. It's a
I'm
personal.
I'm buzzing with with the energy to make this, and I am
Yeah,
extremely passionate about it. And I think that's what's important,
yeah,
especially as we move on in our careers. I talk to a lot of people who are experiencing burnout or just
mm,
their love for their craft gets sucked away by the day-to-day grind of
mm,
being forced to create and create for money. And so I think we have to have these moments in our lives that, what, let's look back why we loved this to begin with.
mhm.
Where does the passion lie? And ignite that fire again and get and I hope anybody who listens to this who has a pet project that they've always wanted to make but have been too tired or exhausted or just down on their luck to do it, just do it. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Take the time and get excited again about your craft.
No, you know what? That's honestly the reason I don't post any artwork in my studio that is mine. I post everybody else's because I look at what inspired me. I want to every day see what do I look at that I love, that will just be like, this is why you're here doing it, you know?
Absolutely.
And so once in a while I have a little board I'll put artwork on that's mine, but it's more of like ideas and things I want to stare at later and look at. But outside of that little small whiteboard I have, there's nothing on the wall that has my own artwork on
I
there.
think a lot of artists do that though. We appreciate other art a lot more than
Yeah.
our own.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
yeah. I
this is a
hate my work
trend.
every day.
Yeah, I can look at my own stuff. Thank you. Same thing with people who get tattoos.
Mhm.
We're like, oh well, you're an artist. You would have to design your own tattoo. I'm like, honey, I hate everything I draw.
Yeah.
2 years after I've drawn it, there's no way I'm putting anything on my body that I
Yeah.
designed. It's not happening.
Yeah, no, I know. I had a friend uh, who published me many years ago with work, and he's still using it sometimes on social media. I'm like, stop tagging me. I don't want to see the work. I just, it's not that I hate what I do, but it's 10 years ago of my work. I've changed. It's not what I want to look at anymore. But I'm happy you're happy with it and you want to continue to use it. Just don't tag me anymore in
That's
your
so
work.
funny. I
So
love that.
So, but I don't really have any more questions. Is there anything else you want to tell us about this project?
Well, I think this is a really good time to wrap it up.
Yeah.
I just want to say that Syrenka has a bunch of social media. I have a Twitter, I have an Instagram, I have a website.
Yes, and I'll share all
So
those links.
Yes. So after the Kickstarter is over, obviously, please do follow them for updates. I will be, sharing tidbits of art, character design, just like all fun things, so that you keep hearing about the project, even if it's 2 years till the
Yeah.
end. At least you'll see some work in progress. So please do follow that. Follow my own socials at Nawrocki Tina for Twitter and Tina Nawrocki Art for Instagram. I love talking to people. I will be, giving workshops, so please do check those out. And I love hearing, your guys' stories and seeing your drawings on those. Yeah, so follow me on all the things and support small independent project. If it's my project, if it's any other independent animation, I always support them. As soon as I see a Kickstarter or a crowdfunding campaign for an independent animation, I'm like, take my money. Like, please make good art and
Yeah.
go out there and do the same. Make good art.
That is a great message. I don't think I can end it any better than that. So I'll be posting all the links to everything that I have and everything you give me, so that everybody can go check it out. I wish you the best of luck with this. I look forward to following and seeing what, the progression of this. And I look forward to actually just seeing some art you post with this as well.
Yes.
You mentioned Mermaid, and I occasionally participate in that, so maybe
This is the
you
year
might see
you should
yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Get drawing some mermaids.
Yeah, no, that's a fun one. So I think, yeah, we'll just wrap it up here. And I got to thank you for coming on. Thank you for
Thank you for
sharing
having
this.
me.
Oh, anytime. You're always welcome back. And I'm sure we'll have you back on for updates and other things that you're doing. This is a really great.
Oh, I
great
will
project.
be so excited when I could share the projects that I'm working on when it comes to video games. So there will be more things to chat about, I am sure.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to drop you backstage, do my wrap up, and I'll see you in a moment.
Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Thanks again. Whoops. Hit the wrong button. Almost hit the wrong button. All right. So everyone, thank you for watching. Always fun talking with animators. Always fun talking to anybody. But looks like such an amazing project. I'm an independent animator. This is something I support. This is something you guys need to go check out. All the links are going to be below, so in the description. So please go support this. Support all, like Tina said, indie projects, man, animators, comic artists, whatever it is. If you see an indie project in something that you love, go support them. But this is going to be great. So make sure you click the links below and follow along. And I will see you guys soon. All right. Bye, guys.